3 creepy UE night shift horror stories that'll make you quit your job. There's something deeply unnatural about working at night, when the world sleeps and you stay awake. The fluorescent lights don't just flicker, they watch. The low hum of machines, it's not just noise, it's like something's breathing with you. The halls aren't quiet, they're listening. At night, the walls seem closer. Shadows move slower. Time doesn't pass, it hangs, like a breath waiting to be exhaled. And you start questioning, was that just your reflection? Was that creak the pipes or footsteps? You tell yourself it's just your mind playing tricks. But what if it's not? What if the night shift isn't just a different time of day? What if it's a different reality altogether, where things that don't belong wake up? These are 3 real stories from people who once thought they were just tired, stressed, paranoid. Until something happened. Something that made them question reality and never work a night shift again. Cue heartbeat sound fading into eerie silence. The break room reflection. Anna was 27. A calm presence, the kind of person who always had a soft smile, never raised her voice, and didn't flinch at sudden noises. She wasn't superstitious. She didn't believe in ghosts. And she definitely wasn't someone who scared easily. Every night, she walked through the sterile halls of a mid-sized hospital in Michigan, the only sounds around her being the occasional beep from a heart monitor or the dull buzz of the flickering ceiling lights. On weekends, it was even quieter, painfully so. No emergencies. No chaos. Just the rhythm of keyboards, the shuffle of slippers, and shadows that stretched a little too far. Her favorite place in the entire hospital was the break room, a small, tucked-away space with dim yellow lights, a rattling old microwave, and a coffee machine that never quite worked. To her, it was safe, cozy, private, or so she thought. At 2:13 a.m. on a rainy night, she heated up some soup and sat by the small table. The only light came from the flickering vending machine. Halfway through her meal, she felt watched, but she was alone. She glanced at the microwave door shiny enough to reflect. And in that reflection, she saw a man in scrubs standing silently behind her. His face pale, eyes fixed, mouth slightly open, not blinking. She turned around instantly, nothing. The room was empty. She checked the hallway. Still no one. But here's the thing, no male staff were on shift that night. And visitors aren't allowed after midnight. Anna brushed it off until the next morning. Out of curiosity, she asked the security guard if she could review the hallway cameras. At 2:14 a.m., the footage showed Anna entering the break room. Then, exactly 1 minute later, the lights dimmed on their own. And for 2 seconds, a tall man in scrubs appeared standing behind her without ever entering the room. No one could explain it. But here's the twist. A nurse had died of cardiac arrest in that same room 3 years prior, wearing scrubs. He was found standing, frozen in front of the microwave. Anna never worked past midnight again. Room 108. Jamal was a former Army vet. He didn't scare easily. He took the job as a warehouse security officer, thinking it would be easy money. 1 building, 1 keycard, 1 job patrol, the floor, log activity, and never enter room 108. It was emphasized during training. If you see the door open, report it. Do not step inside. Naturally, that's the first thing that caught his curiosity. On his 5th shift, around 3:30 a.m., Jamal's rounds took him near room 108. The door was slightly ajar. He paused, shined his flashlight. Inside, bare walls. A table, a chair, a CRT monitor. The screen flicked on all by itself and began playing a silent surveillance clip. It was the lobby from earlier that night. But something was off. Jamal watched himself on the screen. Only it was reversed. His movements were backward, like a VHS tape being rewound. The camera zoomed in on his face, except he never looked at the lobby cameras. Suddenly, the room lights cut out. He turned to leave, but the door slammed shut. He was locked in. Then came a whisper, not loud inside his ear. It said just one word, again. He blacked out. Jamal woke up in the lobby with a headache, lying on the floor. His radio was on static. The time was 4:46 a.m. Security logs showed no entry to room 108. No camera footage, nothing. When he asked the supervisor, they said, "Room 108? That's been sealed off for 5 years. The last guard who entered didn't come back out." Jamal handed in his badge that very day. The elevator on 7. Lena was a college student, young, broke, and trying to stay afloat in a city that never really slept. To cover rent, she worked night shifts at a downtown call center, located on the 9th floor of an old, forgotten office building. Her shift ended at 1:30 a.m. when the streets outside were silent and the building felt like a tomb. Everyone else had already gone home. The lights on most floors turned off. Only hers stayed dimly lit like a single candle in an abandoned church. She always took the same elevator. Old, creaky, covered in scratched-up metal panels and buzzing with static from an ancient speaker that never quite worked. But it had become routine, familiar, safe, until that night when it wasn't. The doors groaned open with their usual delay, but as soon as she stepped inside, something felt wrong. The air was colder, heavy, like it hadn't been breathed in for years. She pressed G for ground. The elevator shuddered, then began to move. Slowly. Too slowly. Then it stopped. Floor 7. She hadn't pressed it. The doors slid open, and all she saw was complete darkness. Not dim. Not under construction. Empty, black, silent. And then, over the crackling speaker, a voice whispered, "You forgot something." Her fingers flew to the closed door button. Nothing happened. The elevator didn't move. The lights began flickering slow at first, then violently. A cold breath brushed the back of her neck. But she was alone. Or so she thought. It was past 1:30 a.m. when Lena wrapped up her shift. The rain outside had turned from a drizzle to a steady downpour, casting rhythmic shadows on the building's glass windows. The office was empty, eerily still, the kind of silence that didn't feel peaceful, but staged, like the calm just before something terrible. She stepped into the elevator alone, her reflection faintly visible in the steel walls. Tired, half asleep, she pressed the glowing G button and leaned back, letting her eyes close just for a second. The elevator hummed to life. But then it jolted, softly at first, almost like a hiccup in gravity, and suddenly stopped on the 7th floor. Lena's eyes snapped open. She stared at the panel. No button had been pressed for 7. She hadn't touched it. No one else was there. And yet the elevator dinged softly, unnaturally, like a sound pulled from underwater. Ding! The doors slid open. What she saw wasn't just an empty hallway, it was complete darkness. No emergency light. No flickering bulb. Just a pitch-black corridor that looked less like a part of the building and more like a void. And then she heard it. Not a voice. Not footsteps. But breathing. Slow, raspy, and far too close. The sound wasn't coming from the hallway, it was coming from inside the elevator, just behind her, even though she was still completely alone. She spun around. No one. But when she looked back at the hallway, something had changed. A figure was now standing at the very edge of the darkness, not moving, not stepping forward, just there, barely visible. And then, a distorted female voice whispered through the elevator's speaker, "You forgot something." The lights flickered once. The elevator shuddered again. She slammed the door button repeatedly. But the elevator wouldn't move. Until suddenly, without warning, the doors slammed shut as if they were yanked from the outside. She reached for the close button. It didn't work. Then the elevator lights began flickering. And a woman's voice whispered through the speaker, "You forgot something." Lena screamed. The elevator jolted and suddenly dropped not floors, but just a quick, unnatural jerk. Then silence. When she got out, she was pale and trembling. The night guard asked what happened. She said, "It stopped on 7. The guard stared at her, then said, "The 7th floor has been under renovation for 6 months. The elevator doesn't stop there." Security footage showed something worse. The elevator skipped 7 entirely, but for 5 minutes. The camera inside was black, as if someone had turned it off. Lena never returned. The night shift isn't just a different time of day. It's a different world, quieter, darker, and sometimes closer to something we don't understand. These stories aren't just creepy. They're warnings about the spaces we trust when no one else is watching. So next time you work late, keep an eye on your reflection. Don't trust every room that opens. And if your elevator stops on a floor you didn't press, don't step out. Like, subscribe, and comment if you've ever had a strange night shift experience.